Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone delightfully in between, my dazzling little arsonists, has anyone ever looked at you, really looked, and watched their whole face rearrange? Not a flinch, not a double take. Something deeper, something that says, oh, I was not prepared for you. Good. Buckle up, precious. Because that shaman out in California, he didn't just catch a whiff of your vibe during some sage-scented seance. No. He cracked you open like a cathedral window, and the light that poured through made him lose his professional composure entirely. His whole demeanor pivoted, slid right off mildly curious, and landed face first in stunned, bone-deep reverence. And this is not a man who hands out standing ovations, darling. This is a man who has spent decades excavating the basements of human consciousness, sitting across from every flavor of broken, brilliant, and in-between. And then you walked in and short-circuited the whole operation. He didn't get snagged on your resume, didn't waste a single second cataloging the jobs, the relationships, the spectacular crashes, or the quiet little victories you've stacked like Jenga blocks along the way. He blew past all of it, treated it like static on a radio he was trying to tune past. What he found underneath, what he found, was the architecture of your soul. The original wiring, the frequency you've been transmitting since the very first breath rattled out of your lungs, and the thing, the specific, delicious thing, that made him lean in and drop his voice to a near whisper. He realized you've been carrying something most people don't even graze in an entire lifetime of trying. Walking through this world with a kind of visibility you've never fully clocked. A presence that registers on frequencies most folks don't even know are playing. You know how some people walk into a room and the whole atmosphere recalibrates? Not because they're loud, not because they're performing, but because something about their very existence seems to rearrange the furniture of the air itself. That's you. That's the thing. He described it as a kind of light. And I'm not talking about the motivational poster, live, laugh, love variety. This is not manufactured, not curated, not the result of some skincare routine for the soul. It just radiates off you, whether you've RSVP'd to that reality or not. And here's the twist that really makes this fun, sweetheart. That light, it's not something you picked up along the way. It's not a skill tree you climbed or a frequency you tuned into after enough meditation retreats. It's the original watermark of who you are. The part of you that existed before you had a name, a history, or a single dog-eared memory to your name. That's what blindsided him. He sat across from plenty of impressive people, survivors, empire builders, the whole highlight reel. But he said there's a canyon-wide difference between someone who has worked ferociously to become something and someone who simply is something at their molecular level. And you're the second kind. He felt it the moment you entered the room. Told me later there was a shift in pressure before you even sat down. Not threatening, not heavy in a bad way, just unmistakably distinct. Like the way you can feel a storm assembling itself behind the mountains before a single cloud has the decency to show up. Your body knows before your brain files the paperwork. That's what you do to people, whether you've noticed or not. Stop listening to them. Hear this instead, darling. Most people are just NPCs, but you're a glitch in the matrix. Read The Evolution of the Anomaly, 73 pages of dark clarity. Consider that your intermission. Grab it in the description. Now, let's get back to the show. You create this quiet tremor in the fabric of things, a subtle rearrangement that leaves some people oddly soothed and others completely destabilized. And the difference? The gorgeous, telling difference between comfort and unease. It comes down to one thing: whether the person sitting across from you is hiding something. Because here's the real showstopper the shaman clocked in that session: my little earthquake. You have this almost unnerving ability to see through people's costumes. Not because you're suspicious or jaded. That would be boring, and you are many things. But boring isn't one of them. You just naturally register the gap between what someone is performing and what they're actually smuggling underneath it. You feel it in your chest when someone is lying. Even if it's a small, polite, nobody gets hurt lie. Even if they're lying to themselves more than they're lying to you. You pick up on inconsistencies in their energy the way most people pick up on a change in temperature. And the ones with something to hide, the ones running their own little con or fleeing from their own reflection, they can feel that you see them. They can't articulate it. They don't have the vocabulary, but they know that in your presence their usual repertoire of tricks starts glitching. The masks they wear, the ones that bamboozle everyone else, suddenly feel like wet tissue paper. During the session, the shaman saw impressions, not photographs, more like emotional X-rays of what you've been through. He saw the geological layers of struggle that would have pancaked most people flat. Times when the sheer tonnage of everything bearing down on you should have been enough to crack anyone clean in two. He saw you navigating situations where you were outnumbered, outgunned, and profoundly, spectacularly alone. And yet you kept moving forward. He said it wasn't stubbornness or ego powering that engine. It was something more fundamental. Something humming below the floorboards of conscious choice. He described it as an internal gyroscope that doesn't malfunction no matter how violently the world tilts. It just keeps orienting you toward where you're supposed to be heading, even when the road ahead has gone pitch black. And here's the bit that genuinely hit different, even for me. In all his years, decades of this work, he's encountered only a small constellation of people who carry what you carry. It's not common. It's not something you develop from reading the right self-help bestsellers, or attending the right workshops, or repeating affirmations in your bathroom mirror until the words lose all meaning. It was given to you before you got here, and that matters. Think of it like a coal buried deep in the furnace of you. Everything you've experienced, the glorious and the gutting and every shade of gray between, has been stoking that coal, feeding the heat. The attacks on your life, the people who tried to pull the floor out from under you, the betrayals, the losses, the moments when you genuinely believed you couldn't drag yourself one more inch forward. All of it was part of the tempering. Not because suffering is inherently noble. Let's not romanticize the mess. But because suffering has a way of burning off everything that was never really you to begin with. And what remains after the fire? Something purer. Something with more tensile strength. Something that doesn't rattle so easy. He saw that you've been targeted before, love. Not in the tinfoil hat, the algorithm is watching me way. In a very real, very repeating pattern. People who sensed your presence and felt immediately threatened. Not because you did a single aggressive thing, but because your existence alone functioned like a mirror, held up to their own choices, and they really didn't love the reflection staring back. So they tried to discredit you, tried to quarantine you, tried to whisper in your ear that you were the problem, Too intense, too much bandwidth for anyone to handle. Tried to convince you to shrink, to dial it down, to become smaller, quieter, easier to scroll past. And for a while, and this is the part that stings a little, you bought in. You believed that if you could just sand down the edges, be more agreeable, more beige, things would smooth out. But it never hit, did it? No matter how compact you tried to make yourself, your presence still registered. You still couldn't shake the bone-deep suspicion that you were built for something larger than just blending in. The shaman said, that's because you cannot negotiate a ceasefire with your own nature. You can spend years running a counterfeit version of yourself, but eventually your soul is going to stage a full-blown coup against every denial you've stacked on top of it. That's what he saw playing out in your life. Everything you've weathered has been slowly, relentlessly dragging you closer to accepting what you've always known, but have been too spooked to fully say out loud. You've been carrying a calling you didn't request and didn't have a manual for, and it has been towing you forward even when you were digging your heels in hard enough to leave trenches. And he said something else I think you need mainlined directly into your system right now. Treasure. The people who have been trying to block you, working against you from the cheap seats or from the shadows. They have no idea what they're tangling with. They think you're just another person they can outflank or outlast. They're running on the assumption that you operate within the same limits as everyone else. That eventually you'll get tired, discouraged, or spooked enough to fold. But the shaman saw that you're fueled by something different. You're not sustained by willpower or ambition or any of the usual premium unleaded most people burn through. You're sustained by something that predates this entire arrangement. Something that doesn't depend on external validation, approval, or even the basic survival math. He said you're being carried by a momentum that was already rolling before you showed up. And it is not about to let you fall now. He said last night's session was different from anything he's conducted in recent memory. Usually when he sits with someone, he can trace the threads, the patterns, the connections, the decisions made, and the ones queued up. He can untangle the knots. But with you, it wasn't like that. He said it felt less like analysis and more like witnessing, like he was in the presence of a finished sculpture that just needed the last veil pulled away. The tangles have already been worked out. The road has already been cut. You've already done the heavy lifting, whether you've registered that or not. Now it's about stepping into what's already been staged for you. He saw the faces of the people who tried to derail you, saw their motivations and the little bedtime stories they've told themselves to justify it all. And he said that without exception, every single one of them has already started catching the ricochet of their own choices. Not because you orchestrated some revenge arc or because cosmic justice punched in for its shift, but because there's a natural reckoning that kicks in when you push against something true. It's like trying to sprint against a river's current. You can muscle through it for a stretch. You can even feel proud of the effort, but eventually, the water is going to wear you down to nothing. That's what's happening to the people who tried to stop you. They're draining their own reserves, influence, credibility, stamina, chasing a result that was never on the table. The thing they don't understand is that you're not even the source of their frustration. You're a symptom of a much larger recalibration already in progress. The truth you carry, the new signal you broadcast. Those changes were going to happen regardless of whether you existed. You just happened to be one of the people giving that shift a face, a voice, a heartbeat other people can perceive. And that makes you a magnet for anyone who's emotionally invested in things staying exactly where they are. But the shaman also said, and this is where the grin gets wider, you're more than equal to this. You've been in rehearsal for it your whole life. Even the chapters that felt like filler episodes or dead-end detours. Training montages. Every hardship was teaching you something you'd eventually need in your arsenal. Every person who let you down was showing you exactly what not to become. Every loss was demolition work, clearing the lot for something better to be built. None of it was random noise. None of it was wasted footage. He sent a message, and I'm going to hand it to you uncut, because it matters that you hear it in his register, not filtered through mine. He said, the part of you that feels like an outsider, the part that has never quite synced with the program, that has always sensed something different about you, but couldn't quite tag it with a name. That part is not a glitch. That's the part of you that already knows your purpose, even if your conscious mind is still buffering. That feeling of not belonging. It's been pointing you toward your real coordinates this whole time. The discomfort you've carried, the nagging sense that you were meant for a different arena. That was never a defect. It was a compass. Your compass. And he said the protective field around you is real, and it's fully operational right now. He could see it pulsing during the session, a kind of perimeter that repels anything not aligned with your highest function. You don't have to generate it or maintain it. It's automatically powered by your commitment to your own truth. Every time you choose authenticity over accommodation, that perimeter hardens. Every time you speak what's real instead of swallowing it, the radius expands. And it's reached a density now where it's practically impenetrable. The doubts, the fears, the little manipulation plays, they just bounce off the walls. You've probably clocked that already. Noticed you can't be rattled the way you used to be. The same old moves that once sent you spiraling barely register now. That's not numbness. That's not detachment. That's altitude. You've outgrown the elevation where those weapons had range. He said your dreams have been slipping you intel, too. The ones that feel too vivid to be just brain static. The ones that leave a residue you can't shake when you open your eyes. Those are moments when your awareness stretches past the velvet rope of ordinary consciousness and accesses something more real than your waking hours. Pay attention to them. They're not random firing. They're dispatches from the version of you that already knows how this whole thing lands. And he said you're approaching a moment of visibility, real, undeniable visibility, unlike anything you've experienced before. A window where what you've been carrying inside becomes impossible for the outside world to keep ignoring, not because you'll get louder or start self-promoting, because the timing has caught up. The external conditions have finally synchronized with your internal state, and things are about to start clicking into place in ways that'll genuinely surprise you. People are going to notice you differently. Doors are going to materialize where there used to be walls, and there's going to be an acceleration, like a track that's been climbing slowly, and suddenly tips into the descent. He emphasized, you don't force this. The most important thing you can do right now is stay steady, stay grounded, Stay tethered to the part of you that already knows what's true, even when the noise outside is doing its level best to drown it out. The people who feel threatened by your presence, they're going to escalate as you approach your full wattage. That's just physics. When light floods a room that's been kept deliberately dark, the darkness doesn't politely excuse itself and head for the door. It pushes back, it pushes hard, but it cannot push forever. And that's what the shaman saw last night. He saw the inevitability of your arrival. He saw that the fight is already decided, even if the scoreboard hasn't updated yet. He saw that everything is moving exactly on schedule, and that you are precisely where you're supposed to be standing. His final message, and I'm handing this one over without a single edit, because it deserves to land clean, was this: you have already survived what you needed to survive. You have already walked through the forge and come out the other side, not just intact, but recast entirely. The person who entered those fires is not the same person who stepped out of the smoke, and that's the whole point. You were never meant to stay who you were. You were meant to be remade. The version of you that struggled and second-guessed and felt lost in the fog. That version served its purpose beautifully, and now it's time to set it down. You don't need to keep reopening old incisions or rehearsing old terrors. That chapter has been written and the ink is dry. The future you're walking into is going to look different from anything in your rear view. Not because your circumstances will flip overnight, though honestly, some of them might, but because the lens you look through is about to change. You're going to perceive things with a clarity that wasn't previously available to you. You're going to make decisions from a place of knowing, not hoping. And the people in your orbit are going to feel that shift. They're going to experience your presence more acutely, and they're going to be moved by it whether they signed up for that or not. So if you've been holding back, if you've been waiting for permission, for a clearer signal, for some kind of notarized proof that you're ready, the shaman's message is that the permission is already here. The certainty is already here. The proof is in everything you've already lived through, every wall you've already walked through, everything you've already become. You don't need the complete screenplay before you take the next step. You just need to take the step, and then the next, and then the next. The shaman in California saw your soul last night. He saw that you are not a mistake. He saw that you are not here by accident. He saw that you are carrying something rare, something necessary, something profoundly important. And now, my magnificent little chaos engine. Now you know it too.